organization with that way. But listen to the membership, and the board should provide that leadership to make the difference.
So you attended probably, what, 5 or 6 conventions before you became a member of the board itself, is that right?
Yes.
Something like that. And were you involved in any particular projects up to that point, or were you just an attendee, basically?
I cannot tell you a lie. After working on the Dallas convention, I decided at that point that I didn't care where the convention was held, who was putting it on, as long as all I had to do was show up. Because I don't think you really appreciate what it is to put on a convention until you actually do it. And I think if some of the, on the other side, some of the attendees knew the work that goes into putting on a convention, they'd be a little less likely to complain about if the room just isn't cold enough, warm enough, or whatever, or things don't happen exactly in time. I think they'd be a little more sensitive to the CPC.
So what finally brought you to the point of running for the board? Which was in 1998, is that right, in Fort Lauderdale?
Yes,
Yes,
I think so.
What drove you to that?
My good friend, Dr. John Bush, and several other people thought I should run for the board, and they cajoled and twisted my arm and promised me things that so I ran for the board, and the other thing I was thinking, oh heck, I'll just run. No one knows me, and I won't get elected. And it didn't work out that way.
So what was your initial board experience like? What type of things did you get involved in?
My first experience, by nature, I'm the type of guy who will sit back and learn from people who are in the know, and not try to go in and change things just because I'm there, but try to learn the culture of the board, and that's pretty much what I did. And I did whatever I was told to do. And I have this thing in my office that says there are 2 kinds of people who in the world. There are those who can't do what they're told, and those who can do little else. So I did what I was told, and then if I thought there was something I could do to contribute to the board, I would do that.
Do you remember any specific things or projects you were involved in the first year or so?
I don't. They weren't memorable.
They weren't.
They were not memorable.
Do you remember any of the meetings, or the personalities memorable that you served with?
Well, Tim West comes to mind. He was a co-chair, and he was, to me, Tim was a dictator on the board, or he had to have his way, and I guess that was okay, but it wasn't always the right thing in my opinion. So that personality I remember.
Well, now it was just a year after you were elected to the board that you agreed to fill a vacancy in the co-chair's position. Is that right? And how did that come about?
Well, the guy who was elected to that slot, Ed Fleming, was removed from office, and I agreed to finish out his term. And then after that term was over, I ran on my own.
And you served with Homer Adams.
Yes.
So what do you want to say about your you served 3 years as co-chair, right?
Yes.
what do you most remember about that? What do you think were the accomplishments, the frustrations,
My
the enjoyments of your 3 years as co-chair?
My frustration was that in addition to improving some things that I saw needing improving in the convention organization, the other thing was I wanted to get the 990 tax form filed on time. That if I didn't do anything else, I wanted that done, and the whole time I was there, that never happened. Because it was such a simple, to me it was very simple. It was a piece of paper, you fill out your name, your address, put some dollar amounts in it, put some names on the bottom, and to me, if you couldn't do that in 4 months, that just seemed a little crazy. And at the time I came on board, we were also having a problem with the IRS and our nonprofit status. So I really wanted to get that all ironed out. We got the tax problems resolved, but we never could get the 990 filed on time. So, and that was one of my frustrations.
What do you think were some of the accomplishments of you or of the board during your time?
I think the board has become more sensitive to the membership, and it has gotten rid of a lot of that us and them mentality in the organization. I think the board still has to understand that and I'm not getting into term limits. What I'm going to tell you is that the board has to understand that whether you are 25 or 50, sooner or later you're going to move on and do something else. It is very important that you train a replacement for you. And I think that's one important thing the board needs to do. One of my other disappointments is that I could never get a fundraising mechanism in place, because I think that is very important to have money to do the programs you currently have and expand them, because no organization can function without some sort of funding. And I'd like to get to the point where the organization has a long, sustaining fundraising mechanism, not a hit and miss or as needed fundraising. But I think we need to get to a place where fundraising is ongoing. There's some mechanism in place where we're either expanding it or tweaking it, but we should be able to raise our annual budget on our own and be able to sustain that for some point in the future.
What do you think has to be done to bring that about?
I think the number one thing in bringing about any plan you have is to write it down, prioritize it, and go do it. And the important thing in doing that is it's for the organization. It's not for me personally. It's not for the co-chairs. It's not for the office. The board, I think, has to be of one mind. They should go into the boardroom and decide that if fundraising is our number one goal, if membership is number two, then everybody on that board should channel their energies into getting those things accomplished. And at the end of the year, as the year goes on, if the plan needs tweaking, and then at the end of the year, evaluate what you've done and make corrections. Throw out things that didn't work, keep the stuff that worked. But the important thing is get the personalities out of it. remember, it's for the organization. And the organization and the board agreed on what your purpose is, and then that's what you should stick to. Keep the number one thing number one.
Do you think our membership is such that we have a lot of people serving on the board that are good at fundraising, or do you think anyone can be good at fundraising?
No, I do not think that anyone can be good at fundraising. No, I do not. Personally, because I cannot easily go ask someone for money. However, if we as a board decided that fundraising is a priority for us, and we had a plan, this is what your job is. Right? I have no objection to sitting at my computer typing out a form letter and licking an envelope with a stamp and putting it in the mail. But I would be somewhat hesitant to go and ask someone personally, especially a strange person, to make a contribution. And I could overcome that if I could really articulate the statement of purpose and what the money was going to be used for. But no, I don't think that anyone can be a fundraiser. I think you can be trained or given a form on how to do it. And I think if you believe in a cause, you can overcome it after a while, especially if you do it as a team.
Well, let me ask you some general questions. This is pretty broad. How has being a member of this organization, both locally and nationally, affected or changed your life? Or has it? Now you know this question was on here because I gave it to you before.
I saw that somewhere. No, it has brought me out of my shell because I pretty much have always I've attended conservative universities and worked in a pretty much conservative environment. But meeting some of the people, the whole spectrum of people in the organization has made me less shy and more open and easier to talk to people.
When you say conservative, you mean conservative politically or just in personal demeanor and conduct?
My whole conduct, yes. And I still have boundaries now still. And I think you should always have boundaries, no matter what your leanings may be politically, or whether you're liberal or conservative or anything else.
But the person we're seeing now is far wilder than the one that entered
Yes.
Dallas 12 years ago. Is that right?
Yes, that is true. That is true.
Well, how do you think, if at all, that being a black man has affected your experience in this organization?
I don't think those have any real bearing on it. I'll tell you probably my worst experience was I date a black man, and I understand that. I was somewhat disheartened to find out that in this organization, which has in its statement of purpose providing a safe environment for individuals, would object to someone who dated someone of the same race. And I understand that the name is Black and White Men, and but I was still naive enough to think that no matter who you dated, even if men dated men were members of, men dated women were members, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Because as long as you were in the environment of the organization, you should be able to feel safe or accepted in the environment.
Do you think that's a pervasive feeling in the organization, or just the view of some
Well, I guess it was,
particular individuals?
I cannot paint the entire organization with that brush. It was just particular individuals that I had that personal contact with. And I really don't think it makes any difference whether it's black or white. I think it has to be the merit and the character of the individual. And I still cringe when I hear that we have to have a black this and a white that, or so many blacks here, so many whites there. I think the number one thing should be fulfilling our reason for existing and the statement of purpose, as opposed to plugging in a black guy or a white guy in a particular hole.
Well, let me ask you then, I mean, as anyone that's been here for long knows, we have all kinds of rules and restrictions on racial and geographic representation that are at least ostensibly designed to ensure some racial parity in the power structure of the organization. Would you be in favor of eliminating those or changing them? Do you think they ever had a role, or they don't anymore? How do you feel about that? To the extent you haven't already said.
No, I think there may have been a time for that, and I also think that in 1980, the country was at a point where black and white men dating each other may not have been as acceptable as it may be in some quarters today. And this type of organization was very important, and that's why I think when you're in a BWMT sanctioned environment or event, that you should feel free to be whomever the heck you are. And but now I think I think people can be judged more on their merits than black, white. Because if and I understand the reason behind the original intent of not having a white guy being dominant over a black guy, that sort of thing. But I don't think that's the case. I think you have very dominant and very knowledgeable, very sharp black men who are capable of leading this organization and participating in this organization. I don't think you have to hold an office to make a contribution. Wherever you are in this organization, if you are truly interested in this organization, you want to make a contribution, you can do it from just being a member. You don't have to hold an office.
Well, how have you seen AIDS affect the organization? And I know to some degree this is kind of a question that almost answers itself, but people have had different experiences with this.
I don't, whenever I hear of someone's death in this organization, I wonder, is it AIDS? And that used to be a really big deal because I was terrified of AIDS until I went through a program in Dallas that taught me the whole evolution of AIDS and that sort of thing. And I've gotten exposed to people with AIDS. And I've known friends who had AIDS and friends who died. My whole attitude has changed toward it. As far as the organization, I'm somewhat saddened when I look at the list each year and see the large cities with a long list of names, and it's really sad to see the names of people I know and having been in the organization and attended meetings all over the country and have met a lot of these people. It's really sad. And it's always sad when I see someone who dies of anything who's younger than I am. So I think it has had a devastating effect, but I hope it has been a learning tool for the remaining members.
What do you think is the NA's greatest accomplishment? If or if.
I think the NA greatest accomplishment is to bring together a group of men who loosely have a common goal. While most of us may try to get involved in the whole statement of purpose aspect of the organization, I've noticed over the years that, and I've heard guys say that this is a family environment for them. This is this organization and the individual. When I say organization, I mean the individuals, because without them there wouldn't be an organization. But the individuals they've met, the experiences they've had, have enriched their lives, and that I think is the greatest accomplishment of the organization.
And how do you, since you've been in the organization, how have you seen race relations change, or have you?
Within the organization, you mean?
Within or without?
I really haven't seen, I've not really personally seen any tough or any race problems within the organization. But in the country as a whole, I think there's been more acceptance, because I think more blacks have been placed in the spotlight, and I think they've answered the call and been judged on their merits, and that has paved the way for a lot of other people.
When you say that you haven't seen racial problems within the organization, what do you mean by that? Do you think that people within the organization pretty much have dealt with issues of racism, or do you think a lot more needs to be done, or that it just hasn't affected the organization, say, any more than it would anywhere
I don't know,
else?
I may just look at the organization through these rose-colored glasses, and that by nature of its existence, that people are here by choice. No one forces them to be in the organization, and when you come, you know that if you're a black guy, it's going to be a white guy there, and vice versa. And I think as long as you come in with that approach, and you see the camaraderie and the brotherhood that goes on at these different meetings and conventions, there's not a whole lot of racism that raises its head, but that I've seen.
Well, what, you combine some of these questions. What do you like best about the organization? And in that regard, what are maybe some of your best memories of the organization?
I don't have any memories.
So you're not that old.
Oh, yes, I am. What do I like best? I've met some very nice guys in the organization who are friends, not lovers, which is one thing I've learned early on to avoid. Don't have a lover in the organization, because stories get distorted and that sort of thing. So I avoided getting involved personally with anyone, or sexually, I suppose, with anyone within the organization. But that meeting the number of people, the interesting people with diverse backgrounds. This organization has more PhDs than about any other organization I'm familiar with. So, and I'm finding out more and more PhDs every day in this organization. So, and I like meeting interesting people with who have different points of views. So that's been an aspect that I've enjoyed. It also afforded me an opportunity to visit different cities at least 4 or 5 times a year. And in each city I meet different people, have different experiences. So from that standpoint, it's enriched my life greatly.
Well, you've already talked about one negative aspect of the organization.
Which negative aspect?
Well, how your relationship.
Oh,
was
please
viewed.
don't. Oh, please.
But, anything else negative? What do you not like? What do you like least? Have there been some bad experiences that you would like to talk about?
Well, I think when I was in the co-chair's chair, the thing I didn't like was that it seems as though we had 12 people doing 12 different things. And while I went into the job thinking that I would make some difference, some sort of a difference, and I really didn't have any illusions that it would be some grand change like me. I just wanted to do something small and make a difference. And so that when I left, it was better than when I came on board. But I think one of the things that comes to mind that really frustrated me was that we sat in San Francisco in the House of Delegates and voted to go hold a convention in Miami, and then several people left the room and decided, let's move the convention to some other place. And I thought that was sort of a disingenuous thing to do. I mean, if you didn't want to go to Miami, don't vote to go to Miami. Once you decide to go there, go. I also didn't.
But we ended up going.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But yes, and the negative thing is that I think we spent a lot of time, and it may have been my fault, trying to correct personality problems when my way of thinking is that whether I was an officer or not, if I had a job to do, I should have just done my job. I didn't have to like anybody. In most cases, I wouldn't even have to see them because we were all in different cities. But I think we got bogged down a lot and this personality fights. And I think early on in my officer time, I think we spent about 9 months dealing with the Ed Fleming situation. And I understand that we were trying to be fair to him, and that's good. But I think the organization as a whole suffered because there was about 9 months in which we didn't do a whole lot else other than deal with Ed Fleming.